Gavin Newsom's plight in California is an example of something that shouldn't be happening but unfortunately is. And as he faces an effort to recall him and thereby kick him out of office, he's hearing about poll numbers that have him ahead but with nowhere near the cushion he should have based on the level of political support he is getting from the public and especially from California Democrats. Current polling averages show a tiny advantage for Gavin. 48.8% want to keep him, while 47.6% want to dump him. And these numbers do not exactly inspire confidence in the final outcome. But all of this does fit the patterns in the astrology that is concurrent with the mid-September moment. The Saturn-Uranus square in the sky during 2021 was exact in January and June, but because it is due to lock in by degrees in late December once again, it has to be considered in play. So even though in mid-September these two huge planetary bodies are 7 degrees apart, their square sky dance is really giving Gavin a hard time by putting pressure on his Mercury, which, being ruler of the ascendant, is a very important planet, and to be honest, would be safer if it wasn't being challenged from Taurus and Aquarius at the same time. That said, if this recall were happening in January, June, or December, the Mercury would be even more vulnerable, so he can take some comfort in that. Then we see that Neptune, a planet that associates so much and so frequently to a politician's level of success and support, because it links to his celebrity and popularity, to the collective's willingness to identify their vision with his and grant him approval, is right on his descendant angle, squaring Mars and opposing the rising Pluto. To assess how damaging this might be, you look at the natal Neptune and notice that while the 6 degrees square or so to Jupiter and Leo isn't helpful, the fact that it also sextiles Uranus and the Moon and closely sextiles Pluto in the ascendant makes it a pretty supportive Neptune, which makes it less likely that despite being in a bit of a precarious transit in September, it would deliver a death blow by unraveling his popularity so deeply as to throw him out of office. Also, that square to Jupiter is the weakest of these aspects because in the days after his birth, it moved into Virgo for about 4 months, so that by progression, instead of aggravating Neptune and making it dangerous through a square had it been retrograding after his birth, the forward motion into Virgo now has it conjunct his natal and rising Venus, something that provides excellent support. Meanwhile, the transiting Pluto, another planet that can sink you if in a rough transit, is now trining the rising Uranus, which is nicely supportive. And although the transiting Jupiter at 24 Aquarius does not guarantee a win the way it would if it was in the 16-degree range to perfectly trine his Sun, it does correlate with positive energy and results just by trining his Sun sign this year, something that Saturn is also doing, even if it is also simultaneously squaring Mercury like I was saying earlier. If you blend progressed positions with the transiting planets on election night, you can see some really interesting patterns. The transiting Venus that day is exactly sextile itself, while the progressed Moon just happens to be in a trine to the same point. This is very nice. Meanwhile, the transiting Sun on election night is just leaving the degrees of his natal Pluto, to my mind indicating the night before he is likely to be sweating and worrying about what might happen a day later. But as luck would have it, on election day, the fast-moving transiting Moon happens to go through the same degrees as the progressed Moon, thereby enhancing and magnifying the trine and sextile it makes from there. This is also very supportive. His main opponent is said to be Larry Elder, for whom I only have a day chart, but absent some really freaky, lucky birth time ascendant pattern, and to be honest, maybe even with that it wouldn't work, because what catches your eye right away is transiting Saturn in a direct square hit to his Sun as the voting is happening. This is not good at all. So, bottom line, a lot of astrological words to just say, I think Gavin is going to be uncomfortable, but he's going to keep his job.